Okay, so today's story, and it's a story, is entitled How I Took One Stupid Idea and Turned It into a Multi-Million-Dollar Television Franchise, and you can too. Because believe me, if I can do this, anybody can do it. As you know, if you've been watching these things before, I always encourage you to send me your ideas because the cable universe and broadcast universe in the world, 40,000 networks, is always looking for stuff. And in fact, we're working with about a half dozen people, most of which who came right here from Facebook, and maybe their shows will turn into something. You don't know unless you take the shot. Anyway, this is a great story, and this is how I got started in this whole thing and why I think it's so easy to do. Many years ago, I was teaching at Columbia University. I was teaching at the journalism school, and I started dating one of my students. Let me tell you, folks, this is a big mistake. Don't do this. I ended up marrying her, and trust me, that's a worse mistake. Do not marry your students. Anyway, I was dating her, and one thing leads to another, and I was the professor and she was the student. It's a graduate school, so it's not unreasonable. Anyway, so I thought she wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. So I said, well, let's go make a documentary film. So we went down to the hospital at University of Pennsylvania, and we took our little camera, and we're sitting in the waiting room for the emergency room, and making a documentary film, like the Titticut Follies, or the hospital, a documentary. And we're sitting there with the camera, and there's this guy who comes in and sits across from me. And, so, I don't know. I turned to him and I go, what are you here for? And he turns to me and goes, I was shot 6 times. I said, you were? He goes, yeah, you want to see it? I go, sure, why not? So he pulls up his shirt. In fact, he's got like 6 they look like giant mosquito bites. Now, it turns out when you get shot, sometimes you die, but sometimes the bullet goes in, and it goes in so hot that it cauterizes the wound, and then it works its way out like a splinter and gets infected, and that's what the guy was in for. He had 6 little bullets working their way out. And the doctor actually showed me later. He took a paper clip and tapped them, and you hear the metal. Then his girlfriend, who's sitting with him, goes, I was shot in the butt. You want to see that? I went, it's okay, fine, we're good with this. And then I go to the guy, I go, would you like to be on, would you mind if we filmed you for television? He said, am I going to be on TV? I said, sure. What do I know? I want the guy to do it. So we take the camera, we start to roll, and he goes into the emergency room. And in the emergency room, they hate these guys. They call them frequent flyers, gangbangers. They get shot, they come in, they sew them up, they send them back on the street, they get shot, they come back in again. So the woman who's the resident, she's a student doctor, or, working her way up, she puts the guy in a bed, and she starts to pull out the bullets with a forceps, but with no anesthetic. And the guy is screaming. I'm sure this hurts. When I take out a splinter, it hurts. You can imagine what this feels like. So the guy is there going, ah, like this, screaming. And she goes, you big baby. And so I got the camera right on the guy, and the guy's screaming right on the lens, going, ah, over to her, and she's pulling the bullet. And she pulls the first bullet out, and she's holding it up like this in the forceps, and his girlfriend comes in and reaches across and grabs the bullet out of the forceps and turns to the guy and goes, you said you was shot with a 38. This ain't no 38. This is a Glock 9mm. And I'm getting all this stuff on camera. I think, pretty good stuff, for just showing up. So we stayed there for a couple of days, and we filmed a whole bunch of stuff, and it was a fantastic footage. And my idea was, because I was the professor, and I think I was teaching, working at CBS, but I had been at PBS for years, and won all kinds of Emmys for documentaries. So I turned to I won't give her name, my current ex-wife, who then was not even, I don't think. And so I said, well, here's what we'll do. We'll get some Vietnam War footage, black and white helicopters and stuff like that, and we'll cut it in, and we'll say the medical techniques of the war zone come to the war zone of the inner city, or some kind of PBS stuff like that. And she was much younger than I was, another mistake, and she turns to me and she goes, I'm not doing that. And I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, I want to cut it together with rock music and really fast cuts. And I said, are you out of your mind? You can't do that. This is life and death. You can't put rock music and fast cuts in this thing. And we get in this big fight. And she goes, you? And I go, you? And, I finally, there was a good indication I shouldn't have married her. Anyway, I said to her finally, okay, you know what? You want to do it that way? You go do it. You mess it up. You'll learn the hard way. I'm not going to argue with it. So we had this RM450 Editex. And so she cuts together this 3 or 4 minute thing with, and we shot great stuff in the hospital. So it's like, dun, 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 don't cut off my leg. Dun, 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 dun. My baby's going to die. Dun, 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 dun. Ah! You know, it was fantastic. I mean, it was really great, but it was wild in those days. I mean, we're talking about 1992. So anyway, we got the stuff, and then I got this meeting with John Ford, who was running the Learning Channel. He had just taken it over. He came from WHYY in Philadelphia, which was the local PBS station, which is how I got the connection. And this guy, Mike Quattrone, who also came from WHYY, was running Discovery. And these guys, Discovery was just getting started. And so we got this meeting with them in their office in Bethesda. I mean, it was called the Learning Channel then. It wasn't even TLC. And they used to do, you know, documentaries like The Romans Were a Happy People, you know, and that's the kind of cup they put on the air. So we got this meeting, and we go down to Bethesda, and they got like one room office. I mean, they're really just getting off the ground. And so we go in with my little VHS tape of this thing that we shot in the hospital. And we go to this conference room, and there's like 8 of them sitting around the conference room. They're all kind of like, you know, and he goes, let's see what you got. So we put it in the deck, and we hit play, and the lights go down, and it's, my baby's gonna die. Don't cut off my leg. Ah! And I'm looking around the room, and there are people all going like, they were wanting the Romans are happy people. So I turn to my ex-wife, not yet wife, and I say, forget it, this is not gonna happen. And the lights come back on, and John Ford, who just took over the network, I thought he was gonna throw us out of the room, he turns to me and said, I'd like to order 13 of those right away at $200,000 per half hour. So in that moment, $2.6 million slid, it was the first production deal I ever did, $2.6 million slid across the table based simply on this 3-minute little reel that we cut together. And this became a series called Trauma Life in the ER, which actually went on for 10 years at astronomical prices, and it spun off paramedics and maternity ward and all that. Built a giant business out of this one stupid little video, which taught me a really important lesson. And that is that these cable channels, they are dying for content, but they don't buy ideas, they don't want paper, they don't want to hear your stupid idea. You just give them like 2 or 3 minutes, it's going to make them go, whoa, I got to have that thing. So that's why we're working with this half dozen people that I found so far on Facebook, and I'm always looking for more. And you know, it's about character and about story, but more than anything else, it's about this absolutely killer 2 minutes that you put up in front of some guy and they go, whoa, I gotta have that thing. And this thing, I mean, I had never produced anything. I mean, I worked as an employee, you know, for CBS and stuff, making what they told me, but this was the first time that I ever pitched an idea, and the thing spun out, I mean, quite literally, millions and millions of dollars, and it also was the beginning of this giant, I mean, now we've produced, I don't know, 8,000 hours of stuff over all these years, and we're still in the production business, and people come to us all the time, but that's how I got started. And I had no prior experience whatsoever. I mean, I'd been an employee somewhere, but it was the 2-minute pitch reel that absolutely positively nailed the deal. And now, you know, there's 40,000 cable and broadcast channels all over the world running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These guys need stuff. They eat stuff. And if you can put together a killer reel, like we're doing with some of the people I met here, that makes an executive, because those guys, they're living and dying based on what they put. If they don't get a good show, they're unemployed. So they're looking for stuff. And if you can walk in the door with stuff that makes them go, whoa, that's unbelievable. And in point of fact, you know, this doesn't, you could shoot this stuff with your iPhone. All it takes is an idea and the ability to put together some really killer video, which we can help you with. So anyway, that's one of the reasons, among many, that we launched and we're running the VJ.com. It's kind of a nexus for this thing, and it's also a place you can learn how to do this. But at the end of the day, trust me, if you can come up with a great idea and you can make a killer pitch reel that is something people are going to want to watch, you too can make millions of dollars, and I'm more than happy to help for a little percentage. So that's today's message. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you share it with friends. I hope you come to the VJ.com, and I hope you tune in for the next little story I got to tell. I'll see you later.